But it's here in verse 17 that he says, although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vines, the labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat, the flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. I want you to read out loud those first 4 words in verse 18. What does it say? You didn't say that like you meant that. I want you to talk like you're in the library. I want you to talk like you're in the house of the living God. What does the first 4 words of verse 18 say? Yet I will rejoice. And that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight. That's it. Yet I will rejoice. Now, before I go any further, and I promise you I'm going to be very brief, but I want to talk to you tonight. Before I go any further, I feel that it is imperative and indicative that I take this first few moments and minutes to explain to you that I feel that the hour that we are in, the season that the Church of God is in, is a critical one. The reason why I say that we are in a critical hour is because I believe, honestly and sincerely, that we are at a place where the Church of God must get back to understanding the significance of realizing the sovereignty of God. When I talk about the sovereignty of God, when we talk about the sovereignty of God, we talk about God's ability to function and move as He chooses. In other words, He doesn't need the approval of man to do what He wants to do because He's God. And so therefore, I feel that when we get to the place that we realize, we understand the importance of trusting God and realizing that God is sovereign, then we have the ability and the capacity to put our faith in His sovereignty. What are you saying, preacher? What I'm saying is, when you know God is sovereign, when you know that God is on the throne, when you know that God still rules and reigns over all of heaven and earth, you are able to trust God and believe God to do whatever it is you ask of Him to do. You have to understand, brothers and sisters, that God is not ignorant of our situations. God is not ignorant of what we're dealing with. God is not ignorant of our struggles and our sufferings, but He realizes everything we're going through because He's sovereign. However, I feel that if I could address the issue, a lot of times we've been taught in the church, and I grew up in the church all my life, and so I'm a pew baby, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in the house, but how many of us remember the old folks used to teach us, and the saints, the mothers and Zions that have gone on to be with the Lord taught us that you never question God with why. You don't ever ask God why He does what He does. You don't ask God why He's doing what He's doing. You don't question God, you just take God at His word. That's what they taught us growing up. You just take God at His word. Just believe Him now. I know you're not going to understand everything, but just believe Him. Don't question, just believe Him. Well, I started to think about that concept, and I started to think about that thought. And what began to come to my mind is, and I'm not trying to mess with your theology. I'm not trying to mess with your mindset. I'm not trying to mess with what you've been taught. I'm just talking about for me. But I started wondering, is it so bad? Is it so wrong to question God with why, if I were to suggest to you that there is an answer to the question why? Is it so wrong? Is it so wrong to question God with why, if there's an answer to the question? I mean, they taught us in English class that for every question there is an answer, whether the answer is given to you or whether you got to find out the answer for yourself. There's an answer to the question. So I started thinking, I know I was taught you don't question God, but when the times get rough and things get bad, I find myself questioning God anyhow. I find myself still questioning God. don't act like you're so saved and sanctified that you ain't gone through some things that made you question God and ask God, what are you doing? Lord, I know you hear my prayers. I know you hear my cries. I know I was taught that you can do anything and that there's nothing too hard for you. But Father, the winds are blowing a little rough now, and the things are getting a little rocky now. Things are getting a little shifty and shaky. So I really want to know, Father, what are you up to? I mean, why do I have to go through it this bad? I mean, I understand that suffering is a part of the process. I understand that you got to suffer if you're going to reign with him. I understand that you got to go through some storms. I understand that you got to go through some trouble. But Lord, what do you do when it seems this bad? What do I do when things are not adding up? What do I do when things are not making sense anymore? So I started asking myself, I said, is it so wrong to ask God what he's doing or why if there's an answer? Now some of you, you're still trying to figure out where I'm going with this, so let me help you. I can remember growing up as a young child. I remember when our parents would make us promises and tell us we're going to do certain things, and they didn't always tell us when they were going to do it. They didn't always tell us the day that they were going to do it, but they would say, you know what, we're going to do something. We're going to do something fun one of these days. We're going to take you out somewhere. We're going to do something nice. We're going to do something. And so me and my brother, we got our anticipation and our expectation up very high because our parents now promising us we're going to do something. We're going to do something for you. Now, they didn't tell us when. That was the problem. But you know, we were like, you know what? All right, our parents ain't going to lie to us now. They ain't going to tell us they're going to do something and not do it. So we just going to believe. And so when the hours started getting late and days started passing and weeks started passing and months started passing, we were asked, now Mom, now Dad, you said you was gonna do this. Now you made this promise that y'all was gonna do something. Now are you gonna do it today? All right, the days have gone by, the weeks have passed. Now what you gonna do? Are you still gonna take us out? Are you gonna still do it? And they would say